Is it recording? Hey Etienne, how are you?
Hey Billy, fine. You?
Yeah, very well. Nice to meet you. Where are you? Where are you based?
Paris, beautiful Paris. Look at that.
Oh wow, you are actually in beautiful Paris.
Yep.
Amazing. Better
Best view in Paris.
than rainy London. So obviously we've got a short amount of time, so it'd be good to jump straight into it. I'm happy to give you 30 seconds on us and our fund, and then sort of hand over to you, if that works.
Yep. Let's do that.
So very quickly, we're a UK-based fund that is purely focused on the consumer economy. We spend a lot of time trying to back and build consumer brands. So brands and communities are very important to us, and I've been doing that for about 20 years across pretty much every single sector of consumer through apparel, retail, travel, leisure, education, health tech, fintech, etc., etc. We can write tickets from anywhere from 150K up to 15 million. We will do pre-seed up to sort of more growth equity rounds. We have a very broad spread across the entirety of the consumer economy. And yeah, keen to hear more about you guys and what you're building.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm happy to talk to someone that has done consumer all his life. I think it's pretty rare.
Mm-hmm.
Most of investors like doing consumer, but default to B2B at some point.
Yeah.
So consumer is hard, but consumer is super interesting, especially in education. You mentioned education at some point. I think the past 10 years, I've been an entrepreneur for 10 years. I've always been working on education, and the past 10 years were interesting, but there were no like huge advancement that would make education fundamentally different from what has been built in the 2010s, like the Duolingos and the Babels, and at least for language learning. And then came AI and 3D. And at the intersection of this is probably the next interface for education.
Okay.
This is what I fundamentally believe. I think in the next 10 years, you'll see thousands of startups, thousands of new products that are going to be avatar centric.
Mm-hmm.
And this avatar will be powered by AI. And this will happen in a lot of different industries. And one of the industry that we're looking at at the moment is education. And so we started the company back in December last year. We did a 2 million pre-seed at that time to start the company.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did a 4 million seed in July. And what we're building is we're verticalizing avatar-centric apps into language learning. So basically what it creates is something like this. It's like you have your own avatar that you can interact with and learn languages with. And you'll see a bunch of these guys coming in the next few years. What's been super interesting so far is that it's terribly difficult to do 3D.
Mm-hmm.
But this is where the main advantage lies. Like the startups, the products that are going to be mass market are the ones that reach that emotion bond between the user and the avatar. And we've been working with teams from the animation industry, so Pixar and Disney, to make the best looking avatar there is on the market. This is the best avatar there is on the market. We've launched it in 5 countries so far. Soft launched it. We had our first 30,000 people, and we're in that iteration period of what people actually want to do with an avatar in the language learning space. And it's really interesting. It's really interesting. Like everything is being rethought.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole education system can be rethought entirely now.
Yeah. And I think, give me a sense of your background before this.
So 10 years in education almost. My first startup was a language app already. Millions of users. Best app of 2020 in the States. I mean, Google best app of 2020 in the States. And then I built a virtual avatar. The first virtual avatar that in 2023. We went on to raise with Sequoia and OpenAI. We were the only startup in Europe to raise with OpenAI and Sequoia. We raised about 5 million, and then split. Co-founder split. My co-founder wanted to go into AI dating.
Yeah,
and I thought it was a shame. So we had already done the work of building a virtual avatar. I thought, why not building for something that I particularly enjoy, education. And let's start with language learning, because this is where I have the most skills and the biggest IP.
and sorry, that raised 500 million, and you left
5 million. 5 million.
5 million. Sorry, when did you leave?
In June
Okay.
last year.
And talk a bit about the end user at the moment. Who is that?
So it's pretty simple. End users are the same as Duolingo's end user, at least for language learning. It's basically 500 million people that are using or have used Duolingo in the last 10 years. That makes a decent market. Now, in those 500 million people, there's actually different categories of people. We're targeting people from 20 to 35. Because since we're a small startup yet, we can't really put out a free product. So we can't really target people that are under 20. We have to target people that really need to learn language, either for studies, but higher studies, or early career. That's where the purchasing power for these type of apps is the biggest. And so yeah, we're targeting 20 to 35-year-olds out of this 500 million user market that Duolingo caters to.
And how many languages do you have available at the moment?
So for now,
Excuse me.
we only have English available, okay, but we're already working on Spanish, French, and German as you know, as languages to learn.
Yeah, and the underlying educational format and structure, that's proprietary to you, or are you using somebody else's and overlaying the avatar on top of it?
So there's two things here that are really important. First, there's the IP that I've been developing over the past 10 years that's inherently mine. I've written a book about how to learn languages. I've learned myself more than 10 languages. This is one part. The second part is language models have redefined completely how you share content. So it's not just anymore about the content. It's really how you share it. And I've seen this difference. It's huge difference between my first startup, where I had to create the content from scratch, with the team, and we couldn't get any help. And then the most important thing was the methodology. Like, how was the methodology different from Babbel or from Duolingo? But now, this is not as important as 10 years ago. Now, the methodology is less important. The more important stuff is to say, how can we be precisely targeting the user need? That was not possible before. So Duolingo is a curriculum that is the same for the 500 million users that use it. Babbel, same thing. Memrise, all those guys, Boozoo, and so on. The fundamental change here is that, yes, we build content in advance a little bit, but that's only 50% of the game. What we're building is we're building an actual teacher. And we're thinking about things that are super interesting, just like how a teacher should teach. And this question, this fundamental question of education, how a teacher should teach, makes up like 50% of our work. That's the question we keep asking ourselves. How do we teach grammar? How do you teach vocabulary? How do you teach pronunciation? It seems easy to answer, but you need to be careful with education, because there's the online education and then there's the offline education. Offline education has an advantage. When you spend an hour with a teacher, you can't quit. You have to stay there and listen, even if you're bored, even if the teacher is boring, even if the methodology, even if the way the teacher teaches is bad. This is fundamentally different online. Same thing happens with, cars that drive themselves. The margin for error is zero. It's less than the human. If you have a virtual tutor, the minute you're bored, you go away. The minute. So this teacher has to be 100 times better than an actual teacher. That's what makes it complicated, but also super interesting.
So you've got your proprietary sort of framework IP that's inherent in you, but what you built up in the program, and then talk to me a little bit about the 3D sort of IP that you have.
Yeah. So 3D IP is a strange thing. It seems easy at first because you can buy 3D characters online, or it appears so. Or you can use 3D SDKs, just like Ready Player Me, for example. The problem with these solutions is that so far, up until today, we've never really thought about how an avatar face should look like. Most of the time, when you have an avatar in the game, you see it from the back, and you see it in the middle of your screen, and it takes up probably 20% of your screen, or maybe 30% of your screen. Here, for the first time in history, and everybody's going to do something like this, you zoom in on the interface, on the face of the avatar. And nobody did this before, at least on runtime. I'm not talking about the animation movies. Animation movies are not running live. You need to be careful about running live versus pre-rendered graphics. And so there is not a single 3D model out there that you can buy that has this level of details in the face.
And who's built that? Is that you? Have you got a CTO? Yeah. Who's built that?
So we're a team of, we have a team of 6 artists. Okay. And they're all coming from Disney and Pixar. And so they know that stuff, but they don't know real time. So we had to teach them. I mean, I couldn't really teach them, but we had to learn all together how to go from pre-rendered animation movies to real-time 3D. And let me tell you, it is freaking hard. Nobody really knows how to do it. So it's been 9 months of just iteration, research, and just straight out passion and obsession over every little detail.
And how have you managed to do that in 9 months, whereas other much better funded people have struggled to do it over the course of many years?
Yeah, obsession. You get the best people from the best companies, and you're obsessed on making the best looking avatar there is on the planet. It's just about obsession. And you're right, you're totally right when you say that. If you look at Klea AI, if you look at Meta, if you look at Genies, these guys have hundreds of millions, and they haven't reached that quality because it is hard. It is freaking hard. And we decided very early on that we didn't want to go for the quantity. We didn't want to go for, hey, let's build 20 avatars. No. Let's build one avatar that will make you feel like it's real. Because this is going to be game changer for the next 10 years.
And from the early data that you're seeing, having an avatar of that quality versus the Duolingo, what is it, a duck or a chicken? I can't remember what it is. You know, they have a something. How much more engaging is it having that avatar rather than fun noises and the snakes and ladders?
So the problem with avatars, and everyone has the same problem, is that it is not linear, meaning you don't get more engagement the more your avatar is defined.
Mm-hmm.
It is more like steps like this. If your avatar is really creepy, then it hurts your engagement. If your avatar is good enough, then it doesn't add any value to your product, nor it subtract value from your product. And at some point, if your avatar gets so good, then you unlock the full potential of it. I don't think we've reached that level just yet.
Mm-hmm.
There's also something into play here, is the level of hardware that people have. I'm running on an iPhone 12 now, and it works okay, but sometimes it's a little bit laggy. These 3D experiences require a lot of hardware to run smoothly. And the minute it doesn't run smoothly, you lose engagement. So it's easier to go, it's probably still easier in 2024 to go full 2D Duolingo, because then you can focus on the basic stuff like the content, the teaching, and so on. But at some point, you're an entrepreneur for something because you want to build the future. And this is the future. Mm-hmm. Like literally, this is what's going to happen in the next 10 years. So yes, it is hard. But in the end, in the end, that's the future, and everybody knows it. So let's build it right now.
And final question from me is sort of metrics that you're seeing. Appreciate that it's early days, but what's getting you excited in current data you're seeing from users, and what's making you nervous?
Excited downloaded trial is pretty good for early versions. So trial meaning how many people, when they download, they subscribe to a 7-day trial.
Yeah.
It is pretty good because people like seeing something they've never seen before. I don't think that if we would have made a Duolingo copy, we would have such a rate of downloaded trial. People are ready for this. That's what we like. People are ready for this.
So what is that conversion rate?
I'm not going to talk about this publicly here, but happy to talk about it afterwards if you want to. But you can look at also competitors.
Sure. And what's making you nervous when you look at user behavior in the first months?
Hardware.
The hardware, as in phones not having the capability to run the avatar.
Yeah, because we're on iPhone, so it works.
Yeah.
But if we want to scale, we need to go Android. So we probably need to raise another 10 or 15 million, because we need to go way deeper into hardware to strip everything from Unity and to make a custom Unity, a custom 3D rendering engine. There's so much happening in there. We've already done lots of improvement work, but there's a lot to do. lots to do.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the time, Actin. Very nice to meet you.
Thanks, Billy. It's been a pleasure.